Hello and welcome to Family Matters. Thank you for joining us. On this program, we discuss various issues that affect family members and individuals. And to help me discuss these issues, I have Mike and Liz in studio. Welcome.
Thank you.
Mike and Liz, today we're discussing something which is very, very interesting, something that we rarely ever discuss. Usually we talk about what to think about before marriage or before an engagement. But today we're discussing about remarriage. What's the issue today?
We're talking about remarriage, Sunny, because out there we have people who have lost their first relationships or their first marriages, either through death or through divorce, and they want to get remarried. But some of them may be constrained because of what the society thinks, what the church thinks, or what the other relatives think. So we are sitting here wanting to empower someone so that at the end of the day or after hearing this program, they'll be able to say, okay, I think this is what I want to do.
Mike, one of the joys of Family Matters is that we discuss real issues that affect real people. Now, is remarriage something that's very common in our society?
Remarriage is as common as, or let me just say, it has always been common from as far back as you can possibly remember. Just think of it in Bible times. Even Paul himself says to the young widows, you need to get married. We are not going to put you on church list to receive support. For you, you still have an option to marry. Go ahead and get married. We will help the elderly widows, but not the young ones. So the idea of getting remarried is an opportunity that is even sanctioned by the Bible itself. You can get remarried.
And Sunny, I also want to say it is common because when your spouse dies or when you are divorced, your sex ages don't die because someone has died. And you would want to fulfill those ages in a manner that is godly accepted and that is respected by you and also by the society. So it is one of those things that we need to really think about before we get into this new relationship.
Yes,
And,
Mike.
you go to some kind of civilization or cultures, whatever, whether it is in the West or wherever, you hear somebody now is on their fifth marriage. They're on their fourth marriage, third marriage, and stuff like that, which seems to suggest that marriage will continue to be popular. Whether you are getting married for the first time or whether you are remarrying, marriage will continue to be a part of our life.
As you're talking, I'm just thinking how
Yeah.
fortunate some are to be going on their fifth and sixth marriage,
Yeah.
while some of us wait for the first one. But anyways, I think like most things in life, there's always things to look at or consider before you do something. Now, what are the things that one must think about before considering to remarry or to get somebody else in their life?
Maybe, can I take you back? I'm very
No,
sorry
that's
to.
fine.
Yes, still think that we need to look at some man or some woman who says, I'm in life just for my children. I've lost my husband. I'll hang around my children. But remember, these guys will be 5 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, 20. They'll get to a point where they'll leave and you remain alone by yourself. You are entitled to your own life regardless of parental responsibility. A person who has lost a loved one is entitled to a life of their own, a love life of their own. You can still develop a new relationship
Right.
and move on. You will not continue to have those children forever. At one stage, they will leave you and they'll leave you alone, and you get stuck maybe in a life where you thought maybe I could be having some companionship, and maybe the window will have been closed by that time.
And these days they leave home even much, much earlier.
Much earlier,
Much
yes.
earlier,
You get the point, yes.
yes. So, Liz, what should one consider before remarriage?
I think one of the most important things to consider before remarriage is to be able to know who you are, live a healthy life. By health, I'm saying be emotionally stable, be able to be physically well, and be financially well, and be able to live socially with other people well. Because you don't want to feel like you're not complete on your own. You don't want to think that if I remarry, then I am complete. No, 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 no. Before you remarry, be happy. Have fun with yourself so that at the end of the day, you are then able to give the other person what you already have.
I think what you're advocating for is what Jesus did. They say he grew in wisdom, in stature, and in favor with God and men. So it's a holistic approach
Yeah.
to life. Mike?
Yes. So basically, just to carry over from what Liz is saying, it's very important to consider the reasons why you want to get married, because it is from those reasons where we'll discover future happiness, or it may be from those reasons where we will create distress and dismay for yourself and stuff like that. So it's very important. Why is it that you want to get married? Or maybe let's go back to your first marriage. Why did you get married in the first place? And now why are you seeking remarriage? I just want to say that we need to run away from an escape mentality where somebody thinks like being single is a very wrong thing. And I think for me, being married is the most wonderful thing to do. I don't want to lose that status. If you are getting remarried for status, you should also expect anything to go wrong with that kind of mentality.
Right.
Yes.
I think the other important thing is deal with your loss. If you have lost your husband, whether through divorce or through death, you need to address that grief. Go through the process of grief and put a closure to it. Because if you don't come to a point where you say, I can now move on, and you quickly rush into a new relationship, you are going to have problems where you remember the husband or the wife who has just passed away, and you want to compare him or her with this new husband or this new wife. So it is very, very important to allow yourself time. I'm not going to tell you how long that should be, because people grieve differently. So go through the grief and address it and come to a closure. Then you can be able to move forward with an open mind that can now be able to study this new person, accept this new person without comparing them with the past relationship that you have just lost.
I think what you're saying is very important, because very often people go into remarriage because they're trying to replace or forget the spouse, but it doesn't work like that. You have to work through the emotions slowly. Mike?
Yes, I think the other thing that is very important for a person who is getting married again or who wants to marry again is to be able to discuss why possibly your marriages, maybe you and your fiancé, terminated. Suppose it was divorce. I think talk about such things between the two of you, because you then don't want to have a repeat. Because sometimes we divorce and we think like the other person was the one who was wrong, but you did not introspect to find out that the challenge that led to divorce is still in you. And even when you get married to a new person, you are likely to divorce again. So for me, a person who is having a chance to remarry may still need to discuss why did we divorce in the first place, and discuss it between the two of you, because that's part of courtship. That's part of your dating.
You know, Liz, while he's talking about introspection, from a psychological point of view, what other thoughts do you have about actually self-introspecting, the importance of that, in trying to correct things that you know are wrong in yourself?
Yeah, Sunny, it's very important because you cannot cheat yourself. When you introspect, you know things that no one else knows. And you even can be very truthful with yourself so that you know your areas of weakness. When you address your areas of weakness without anyone pointing at you, you are able to seek proper help to overcome that weakness, because you are doing it without being forced. You are doing it for the sake of you being able to be a better spouse within this relationship. And psychologically, it gives you peace of mind to know that I have dealt with myself the way I do things that are not right. Because believe you me, when you don't introspect, you are bound, like Mike has said, to go and do exactly the same mistakes you were doing in the past relationship. Be it you have lost your husband through death, you know you are a human being. Before that person died, before that wife died or that woman died, there were things that you were arguing with. There were things that you were not doing properly. And maybe your spouse was even telling you, this is not right. Now you have a chance to correct such type of things on your own, so that you don't repeat the same mistake into the new relationship.
So basically, one can look at remarriage as a chance to do things properly
Yeah.
this time.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike.
Yes, I think like you're rightly putting,
Mm.
marriage, nobody gets to a point where you say, I'm now an expert in marriage. So when I marry another person, I know what to do. Every new person you meet is a new baggage. It's a new package. You need to get to know them. So it's very important to, when you are remarrying, to go, it's like you are starting all over again. Remember the first step you took in your first marriage, the dating, the courtship, and whatever. You cannot jump those stages even in remarriage. You need to take time to know him, take time to know her, because you don't want to miss it up this time. Because sometimes our first marriage, we rushed into them, but you don't want to do that in your second opportunity.
Right.
Yes.
Please.
I think the other thing is involve your children. Let them know how you feel, what you are thinking about the next step you want to take in. Don't surprise your children. Where you just bring someone and they see you kissing this man or kissing this woman, fondling them, and they are wondering, what is this person doing?
Who is this one?
Where is this one? You cause resentment in your children. Of course, children sometimes they feel jealous that someone is coming to replace their parent who has passed away or the one that you have divorced. And they may want not to accept this new person. But it is better to work together with them and all those other significant people that matter in your life. Why? Because before you fully commit yourself to this new relationship, they can be your eyes,
Right.
they can be your ears. They might know the background of this new person you want to get into a relationship, and they can inform you not to destroy you, but to build you. So you need to have what we may call group dating. Group dating is where you open up your new relationship. It's publicly known. People will not guess what is happening.
Yes.
They will know, and you are not going to be ashamed of it because this is what you want. So when you group date, you are helped to see things that you may not see on yourself. You are helped to know things that people hear and they'll come and tell you. But at the end of the day of hearing all this, you have to make a deliberate decision. It is you to decide that I've involved my children, I've involved my significant others, and I am taking this step. Go together. Don't say it's my life.
Yeah.
I can do whatever I want. Because by so doing, you are setting a downfall trap for yourself.
Yeah. I think at this point we'll just go to a short break. Then when we come back, we'll just look at some more factors that one can look into before they remarry. Please don't go away. We'll be right back after these short messages. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching Family Matters, and today we're looking at what to consider before you remarry. Liz, before we took the break, you discussed something which I want to take you back on about how to involve your children in your decision. Now, what happens in a case where the children are totally resistant and you can see that they won't accept this at any point in their life?
You know, sometimes what makes anyone and even children resist, it's the approach. It's the way you have approached them. So in most cases, if the approach is good and the children also understands you, you'll find they will have in themselves the understanding to say, okay, let us allow it. And for those children who may also be resentful, at times they may need someone outside you who can come to their level and explain things so that they can fully understand. Because resistance is a sign of showing not understanding and not wanting this thing that is happening. So I would say, much as people and children may resist, try to find intervention for them to be discussed with, because there is nothing like total resentment
Right.
unless otherwise we are not following the proper procedures to help everyone come aboard.
Okay, Mike.
Yes. Just a follow up to that. When we are like consulting with children, we are not seeking approval. We need to make a
Right.
difference there.
Okay.
We are informing them. They need to know that I need to move on with my life. I am a social being. I need to belong. I need to love. I need to be loved. And it's important for us to be mom and children, dad and children. But outside our relationship, I also belong to a larger society where I want to feel like it's in my right to explore and be able to begin new relationships. So let's not look at it as if we are seeking the approval of children.
Right.
So ultimately, even if the children say no, I can still say yes, because this is about my life, it's about me. Because they also have their own marriages.
Of course.
And I can also oppose and say, hey, I'm not happy with your partner and whatever.
But
But
they'll still go
ultimately,
ahead.
they'll also make their own decision. So
True.
why not give me the opportunity to also make a decision? Because this is about me.
That's true.
Maybe relatives and significant others can also object, but let them go ahead and object. But this is about me, this is about you.
I'm just informing you.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Please.
maybe talking about that,
Mm.
it leads us to being aware. You need to be aware of issues involved in a blended family.
Okay.
Because maybe you are marrying someone with their own children, their own relatives, and you also might be having your own children. Or maybe you may not have your own children. So you are now getting into a blended family where you need to fully understand the challenges that are there and talk about them before you move on. Agree on the perimeters. Who is going to do what? Who is going to discipline the children from my biological children and his biological children? How are we going to handle conflict in such scenarios? We need to agree before we get in. And the other thing is, you also need to talk about property.
Right.
You had your property. He has his property. How are you going to bring it up? Who is going to be? Is it going to be for your biological children, or you are going to say it's now our property? You need to agree on those things, because believe you me, if you don't do that, that's when you will say in a new relationship, these things belong to my children. You found me with my own things. And already conflicts like that, you need to avoid them by discussing earlier and finding a mutual understanding on how we are going to handle with important issues that come through blended families.
I like what you're saying, to say you must discuss it before you make the
Yeah.
step, because don't wait until you're married, then now the
Yeah.
issues start coming up.
Yeah.
Mike, any other additions?
Yes. One of those things that perpetuate the marriage commitment is that couples have more similarities than they have differences. So it's very important for this person who is going to marry again or wants to marry again to look into their future partner and be able to say, are we compatible? How close are our values, our principles, and our beliefs? Because sometimes your first marriage, you were incompatible. You married a person who believes other things and you believe other things, and you had running battles over the issue that you had more differences than you had similarities, and you don't want a repeat of that. So when you now go back and say, I have an opportunity to marry again, don't discount the issue of, are we compatible?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's also very important to talk openly with one another. Remember, you have been in relationships.
Yes.
Now that you are dating and you are courting, talk about your trigger issues. Because sometimes you'll find you want to go out to Victoria Falls, where maybe that is this place where you had an accident with your spouse coming from, and the spouse died. And the new relationship says, let's go and
For
have
holiday.
fun for holiday. Be open to talk about it, how it reminds you of that accident, so that much as you may have put closure, but trigger issues come. When you get into that place, you may find yourself lost into remembering how the accident happened. But if you have talked about it with your new person who you want to engage into, they'll be able to say, I understand. They'll hold your hand and they'll help you cope. Rather than when you go there without talking about it, and then they all of a sudden find you in tears and everything. They wonder what is happening. So talk about your trigger issues and know them yourself, so that if by any chance you can avoid some things that can be avoided, try and avoid. If the things cannot be avoided, seek help
Yes.
and talk about it with this new person. Don't give each other surprises of trigger issues.
I know of people who actually, when they want to remarry, will clear out even the kitchen utensils, the mugs that remind them of the person, or even a simple cushion because it reminds them of the spouse. So they'll give that away as a way to try and deal with the new spouse that's coming in. So it's small things that you can do to try and accommodate the new spouse.
Yes.
Mike.
I think following it up again with what Lisa said, if you are marrying a person who was once married, and suppose this is your first marriage, you should also want to consider the fact that they will have trigger moments. They may relapse in their grief and what have you. This is not to say they don't love you and they're still in love with the other person, but sometimes it's not easy just to sever an emotion that was once attached to another person. But with time, of course, we recommend that you need to have your closure moment. You have to have resolution of loss and say, I need to begin. This new relationship I'm having, it's not a replacement of the old relationship.
Yes.
It is new and unique in its own right. But still more, the one who is marrying a person who has lost needs to understand that should there be any relapse of emotionality and whatever, it's just for a phase, but they will not be permanently there. But with the time, they'll get over it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I also want to talk about this issue of courting and dating.
Yeah.
One does not need to take a shortcut on it.
Yes.
It does not matter how old you are. Some people may think, I'm 63 years, I want to marry, I know it all. That is a dangerous stance. You need to go through dating and courting in its fullest sense,
Yes.
so that you understand this person, because much as you may have been in marriage before, you are now having a unique person, different from who that person you had before was. So you need to take your time and you need to be very honest with one another. Now that you are even mature, be honest with the issues. Address them properly before you jump into it. Don't marry for desperation. So don't shortcut courting and dating. It is a thing that needs to be done no matter at what age.
No, I'm glad that you're raising that, because sometimes you find that when someone wants to remarry, they skip that whole stage and the two will say, no, we're now adults, we now have our families, let's just do this. And then they skip the whole let's get to know each other phase, and then problems arise later on in the
Yeah.
marriage. So it's important that you raise that.
Yeah.
Now, something that's very important, Mike, what does the Bible say about remarriage? Does it say anything at all about remarrying?
The Bible has a lot of stories of people who remarried. And again, I would like to come to the book of Matthew, chapter 9, where we are told that if you are going to remarry, make sure you are not marrying a divorcee who became a divorcee outside of the provisions that are sanctioned by the Bible. If you divorce your wife outside of what God permits, even if you remarry, God still has an issue with your marriage. It's like the Bible clearly says you are living in adultery. So this is one thing that people need to consider. I am marrying a person who lost their marriage to divorce, or there was a divorce situation. I need to go back to the Bible and say, God, what do you say about this? God has got a statement. If a marriage, let me just put it bluntly.
Right.
The Bible simply says, if there is no unfaithfulness involved in terms of sexual intimacy and whatever with third parties, you cannot divorce over we don't agree on money, we disagreed on how to discipline children, or he doesn't love me, so we are going to divorce. Those reasons do not stand with God. Yes, I don't know what this is to say also.
Yeah, I also want to say, we see it happening. it has become like it's okay. People just go through rebaptism and they are baptized and then they remarry. Yes, in the eyes of people, you've done that.
Yeah.
But in
Yeah.
the eyes of God, for as long as your wife or your husband you divorced is not yet married to someone, you are obligated
Yeah.
to remain single. But if your husband divorces you and he marries someone else, at that point,
Exactly.
you now have the right to remarry. Why? Because your husband is committing adultery. Though he says, I am married to this person, according to God, that man is committing adultery or that woman is committing adultery. So the one who has been left, the one who has been divorced, and sees that this person divorced and went ahead and marry is now clean before God. They can now go ahead and remarry, and God says that's okay.
Sure.
So we need to be very clear. You don't get remarried for as long as both of you are still single, and as long as there is no adultery involved, God says, work your things out. That's why it is important to fully understand that baptism does not mean overriding what God says, because the same God who says get baptized
Yeah.
is the one who is saying, I hate divorce.
Right.
And only remarriage comes through these outlined principles. So it's clear.
Sure.
We can do
Yeah.
it, but only against what God says.
Mike?
Yes. One other thing is that marriage is very important in God's mind, because marriage is like a parable. The husband represents the office of Christ, and the wife represents the church. So marriage is giving us a picture of the relationship that should exist between God and his church. And you do not want to bring in things in that parable that will distort the picture that God wants to put to present to humanity. So it is very important. It's not a question of I'm baptized, so then my new marriage is clean. For as long as there was no adultery involved in the first place, then that marriage is still a problem before God.
Sure, I wish we had more time, but I'm sure that our viewers will be able to carry on this conversation with you
Yes.
outside the studio. But
Yes,
thank you
yes.
so much for the views you've shared today. We've come to the end of our program, and I hope that you are blessed or learned one or two things from this show. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact Liz and Mike on the details that are showing on the screen right now, and they'll contact you as soon as possible. Until next time, goodbye and God bless.